All right, here we go. Good evening, guys. This is Martín with Trafico. Thank you for joining tonight. Today's podcast is better, as they say, at LAFC. I really like that.
Yeah, it is really loud. I'm not gonna lie, kind of scared me a bit, but we're gonna go and talk about this game.
Yeah, you know, kind of weird. I was at BMO Stadium covering the LAFC game. It's like the exact opposite of going to a Galaxy game right now. It's almost like Disneyland, and I mean, I don't even know how to explain it, but I was in a luxury suite at one point. I was eating shrimp quesadillas and potato tacos. I was hanging out with Renee. Uh, LAFC played Austin. It was a fun time, and then but I was covering both teams, so I would have to look at my laptop every once in a while, and everything was good until there was the PK, and then things sort of unraveled at the end. But yeah. So Houston, LA, what went wrong, Alex? Because for me, when I went back and rewatched the game yesterday, I saw a team that was kind of predictable in how they would play. They enjoyed possession. They even had spells of quality, but they lacked that cutting edge in the final third. And then obviously the team exploded in the second half.
Yeah, you said it right. It's kind of predictable now to kind of know what the Galaxy are gonna do. You know, they're gonna possess the ball, play in their opponent's half, opportunities through the run of possession, and we kind of saw that. I think Dejan Joveljic had a shot in the box that was from close range. Steve Clark got on it. The Galaxy also had a couple more shots in the box, but they were blocked. So I mean, luck isn't going their way in that direction. I would say the first half wasn't horrible. Obviously not amazing. That like we kind of talked about. They did what we expected them to do. Just that Houston kind of just took advantage of the set piece opportunities. There was a potential, I think, of a potential penalty called in the first half. I don't know what exact call the referee was looking at, whether that was Steve Clark tripping Joveljic or Memo Rodriguez going down in the box, but there was an opportunity there for a penalty. It was called a penalty. Ricky Puig, I think, had just put the ball down, and he was getting ready to wait for the referee's whistle to take the penalty when the ref gets a call from VAR talking about, hey, we're going to look at this play again, and then that gets reversed, right? So that's a big emotional drainage right there, and I think Vanney highlighted that, how, emotionally this team kind of just had to, they were like, okay, we got this penalty in the bag. We're going to take it. We're likely going to go up by one goal. And then now you have to reverse that and get back to in your position, back to running. And then 10 minutes later, Houston capitalizes with Hector Herrera, who, gets fouled by Martín Cáceres near the outskirts of the box. And, that foul would have consequences because that led to his first yellow card of the game.
Read the striker, subscribe to the striker, because if you did, what you would have known ahead of time is that Houston are set piece merchants, and
Exactly.
Herrera, of course, but that's obvious. But yeah, it was a bit unlucky with the PK. Let's give the Galaxy their due. You can't just go game after game and have penalties that are very strong, and then you don't
Mm-hmm.
get a call. I mean, that's going to drive anybody crazy. Um, if we want to sort of zoom ahead to when the players lost their minds, uh, you had two red cards. The first was Martin Caceres in the 63rd. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about Douglas Costa, and I'm very upset over what happened. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, we need to separate. Two players getting kicked out of game isn't good, but involved in both talent challenges. I mean, the thing with Caceres is, number one, he's been committed to this team, and he's been committed to this team for the better part of a year. You can even understand how, again, he was frustrated. Maybe he thought, okay, I'm a veteran. I'm 35 years old. I've played in World Cups. Maybe I get to tap the ref just a little bit. He's not a captain. You know, he kind of tapped him like he hit him like dude, and it was just a little too much. But at least the guy has passion. Saw immediately his remorse. I can't count how many times he kind of did I'm gonna pull the shirt over my face and pull it back down. Then I'm gonna make that look like I'm about to cry. I mean, like, he was upset. He was very upset.
Yeah, I think Cáceres just has to do better there. I mean, in all leagues in the world, no matter where it's America, wherever, if you touch the ref or interfere with the video assistant referee while they're reviewing a certain play, like that's gonna get you booked, and he should know that. And I understand it was a frustration, like hey, where from Cáceres' point of view, where like hey, this wasn't a penalty, he dived. I understand that frustration, but at the same time, you've got to stay composed in those areas. And the Galaxy, that's just the main theme of this game. They just lost their composure all throughout this game, and Cáceres, I think like you said, his reaction, he knew he messed up immediately once you saw the ref pull out the second yellow card and he was out of the game. I think you meant hit it on the nail. Like Cáceres shows that he puts an all-out effort for the Galaxy. Sure he's an older player and he doesn't necessarily need to be playing anymore. I mean, he just played in his fourth World Cup, but he's still putting out good effort out there. He's still leading the back line, leading the squad, and whatever that they need. But again, you just need to not go up to the referee while they're looking at the VAR call. I mean, I don't understand what kind of led to that. I mean, it's just
Blacklisting.
such a boneheaded move for me because it's going to result in a yellow card, and I think everybody, not just on the pitch but in the stadium, anticipated that. Even watching on TV, the minute I saw him kind of go up to the ref, I was like, oh my gosh, do not get near him, do not
Ruiz
touch him,
was
because
calling it out.
yeah, like you could see that as soon as he started walking to the ref, and you just got to be better there. And like I said earlier, his foul earlier, which got his first yellow card, that was the foul that led to Herrera's first goal. And I mean, on that goal, I mean the Galaxy wall has to do better. I think it kind of like goes in between the heads of a couple players, like the upper body. Like the wall just has to be better there. And I don't really blame Jonathan Klinsmann on that. Just the wall just kind of set him off, and I understand from a goalkeeping perspective, like that's gonna mess you up a lot when you're trying to figure out the flight and direction of where the ball's going. Like they just got to be better on that end as well.
Yeah, and you can see Coco. He's gliding in on the back post. So if suppose it goes off the post, suppose there's some sort of deflection, easy goal. I mean, it was just terrible defending. Uh, we might as well get right to it. We get to the end of the game. The Galaxy are 3-0 down. And then Douglas Costa gets a red card. How about that? Now, I'm very upset about it. You're very upset about it. The fans are very upset about it. And there's a good reason for that because, I mean, let's get started. I had to look at the replay from the broadcast about a dozen times last night just to confirm in my head that he didn't do that completely intentionally, like it was staged, like it was wrestling or something. Because, I mean, I looked at it a dozen times, and it's just it's so deliberate how he gets the ball, and he just creates this sort of simulation. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I wake up the next morning, I see another angle, and then it's just you throw up the papers. It's like, no, no, he did that on purpose. Like, it's not a hot take. He intentionally got himself thrown out of that game, and that drives me absolutely. I mean, I'm effing furious. I mean, here I'll share Greg Vanney, who another person who. Nope. Let's do the quote on Cáceres and Costa receiving red cards. It's unacceptable. They know it's unacceptable. They apologize to the group. They know it's unacceptable. It can't happen. These guys are veterans in our team, and they are supposed to be leaders on our team, and they need examples, and they need to, again, control their emotions, and we need them available always. And yeah, they understand that, and it's not acceptable. No, no. I'm sorry, but he can say that, but no, what Costa did was completely unacceptable. He embarrassed the crest, he embarrassed the club, he embarrassed his teammates, he embarrassed Greg Vanney, who's been doing nothing but hyping up Costa and saying he's fit and he's Munich fit and he's motivated. And then, he makes his coach look like a big jerk. And he even makes us look like big jerks because we're the ones who are sharing these quotes, sharing this information about Costa. We don't post about Costa, say he's fit, and then put a little wink emoji at the end of it. We have to take this seriously. And then he turns around, he makes us all look like big idiots.
Yeah, I think Douglas Costa right here. I mean, this isn't the first time he's had this violent conduct that leads to a straight red card at the end of a game. I remember last year against Minnesota, he kind of just lost it a little bit. Kind of pushed a player to the ground. It was like towards the end of the game, and keep in mind too, in the game against Minnesota, he was just coming back from injury. Like the game beforehand, I think, he had just made his return from injury and was trying to get back into rhythm. But then the next game, he kind of just gets another unnecessary red card, and you see that again this year on the new season, where, like you said, Mike, Greg's has been on the record saying Douglas is committed. He wants to be a big part of this team going forward. That hyping up, saying he's as fit as he was in his prime. When you say these kind of things, there's take last year out of your mind, but there's an expectation when your coach is saying this about you that you're going to hold yourself to a standard that it's going to be, helping the team both on and off the field, I think. I mean, again, he's a designated player. He's a veteran player. He's played in, World Cups. He's played in the highest level in Europe. This is a guy who's not unproven, who, isn't like this person who we don't know anything about. Like Douglas Costa is a player that a lot of fans in the past 5, 6 years remember vividly for what he was able to do on the pitch. Now it's just a complete 180 of what he used to be now. I mean, we're seeing, like, again, these questions of, is he really committed to the club? Is he really, like, does he really have the passion to kind of lead this team forward? And just for me, it was just the part that just kind of just, got me was like, there's seconds left in this game. Like, this was completely unnecessary. And in a way, I think I'm not gonna say he kind of provoked it, but I mean, this came out of nowhere. It's not like I think it was Brooklyn Reigns, the Houston player, he took down. It's not like these two were going at it for 5, 10 minutes. It's not like these two were kind of getting physical on the pitch, or Reigns was kind of time wasting out there. This was just Costa just kind of unleashing his anger and losing his composure. And it just, again, this doesn't look right when you see the rest of his teammates, trying to separate the players, trying to calm him down. But I think deep down, they're also disappointed as well because they're already down to 10 men. It's just a game with another person not able to go next week.
Hey, I'll say it. He did it on purpose. He got himself thrown out of the game on purpose, and now he gets in because he kicked the ball in the stands afterwards.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
be
that's right.
clear. Let's be clear. He backheeled. The original replay. You see the scuffle. When you see the other angle, he clearly backheels the ball when his team's down. Backheels the ball in the Brooklyn Reigns. The only reasonable explanation for doing that is that you want to start some sort of fight. And of course, the Galaxy are down 3-0. There's like less than a minute left in the match. Your team is lost. There's absolutely 0 point to even being combative. So I mean, of course he's faking even the idea that there's this urgency involved because the game's basically dead. And of course, he grabs him by the neck because guess what's an automatic red card doing this? So of course he grabs him by the neck. I mean, the whole thing was just disgusting. Now, what does the club do about Douglas Costa? You're not going to let it go. I'm not going to let it go. I saw what happened, and listening to Greg, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but what I do know is that the idea that he'll just learn his lesson and he'll work hard and he'll figure it out, and that's not going to happen. So that's done. Disciplining him now. Situation. Me and Alex off camera, we were talking about hey, it hasn't really happened in MLS before where you had a distressed asset and then the club just decided to go to war with them, meaning well, and you get the train on the side and we'll make you do promotional stuff, but you're not getting anywhere until you and us agree that we're going to rip up the contract. Now, we looked into it, and it turns out that the situation is they could pulse, even if they could pull that off, because Douglas Costa is a designated player, he would still count against the squad. So you can't really get rid of him that way. It's basically two things. They can either dump him, and by dumping him, I mean get rid of him and then replace him with a DP, and by doing that, I mean a buyout. Or they're going to be asset who they don't really want to use for the rest of the year. That cut and dried.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a. I mean, Douglas Costa. I mean, it's what maybe been like a year and almost less than a year and a half, right? And there's just been he hasn't been able to bear fruit for his Galaxy team on the pitch. I mean, he has more red cards than he does have assists, in his Galaxy career, right? Like that's just not a good stat to be associated with. Um, I think there was a lot of hope, like we talked about earlier, that maybe Costa could really be a difference maker. I mean, this is a guy who, when the season ended last year, looked a lot better than compared for the rest of the year. I think that this injury definitely set him back, but I mean, he's been in Vanny's system for a year. He knows what the coach wants. He's at the games when he's not playing earlier in the year, seeing what this team needs. I mean, this is a guy who's, like I said, he's played in so many different places. He's played in many different roles and many different tactical setups. Like he knows what Vanny needs. He's smart enough to know what this team needs, and to be able to kind of just, I don't want to go on record say he gave up, but I mean just that effort at the end where you're kind of just like trying to find something and unleash your anger or your frustrations out there is just something that's just not acceptable. I don't know what Greg Vanney's gonna do with Costa. I mean, MLS allowed changed in the rule book this year that you're allowed to buy out a player in season instead of previous year having to do it in the off season. Now they have to do the buyout before the start of the summer transfer window, the secondary transfer window. So if they're gonna do it, like they have to think about it and do it before that, because if not, he's gonna be stuck on the roster. I mean, luckily for the Galaxy, it's not like Costa is has multiple years of his contract left. Like this is the last year of his guaranteed deal. He has a club option for next year. So he's not necessarily good commit. He's not necessarily has his future concrete with the Galaxy yet. So if you're gonna do a buyout, the perfect time is now. But again, it's gonna be up to Vanny, the front office, Will Kuntz. Are they gonna want to do that? How is that gonna work? Again, there's like less and less days before the primary transfer window closes when they can get another player, an international player. So if you're gonna decide on making a big change, kind of implement an authority in a way, you have to do it now.
Yeah, you were talking about Vanny a second ago. I don't know about you, but I've gotten a fair share of criticism lately because I haven't taken Vanny to task enough. Now, one of the privileges of speaking to Vanny, daily, weekly, etc., is that we know what's going on in his brain, and these a lot of these guys are smart. So uh, when you learn what Vanny is thinking inside, it's easier for you to trust what he's saying. But lately, and especially in this past game, I do have a few specific criticisms of him, and I want to air them out. The first is I don't even know how to talk about this, but when Vanny took on becoming the manager and the sporting director, that was a lot of responsibility. I'm gonna plug the striker again. That probably the first thing I wrote about afterwards was the fact that all right, how is he gonna manage all of these different responsibilities and make it work? Now, let me give you a good example. He's quoted in the Athletic article as saying we need more transparency. We're not telling our story enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Few days pass, and all of a sudden, the team has a bad result. Happens to everybody. We don't get to speak to the players after the game. We'll be transparent, and the media session timed out. We wanted to speak to Delgado. Took a shower, and by that time they were on the bus. So that's fair. But the fact that we didn't speak, that's extremely unfair. And that's what happens when you become a figurehead of like 5 or 6 different things all at once. That's just one example for me. Another example, I mean, for Pete's sake, dude, play the 3-5-2. The Galaxy have struggled mightily this season, both in terms of creating, clear-cut opportunities and getting goals on the board. They've been hamstrung. We've been giving them excuses. We've been giving them plenty of leeway. But when you have a system that, or excuse me, when you have a style play that's effective, you know, is, I worry that down the road, Vanny might get the reputation of being a coach that's too marred to a system or a specific way of doing things, because we all saw that the 3-5-2, it doesn't have to be a solution for everything, but it worked. And then to see LA just kind of revert to the same thing was incredibly disappointing. So I will say that. And then this is the point that I really want to get across, Alex. Bruce Arena was an excellent man manager, but he was really good at man management. 59th minute of the contest. This was something that kind of flew under the radar, but I want to talk about it. Raheem Edwards, he gets substituted out of the match. The commentator, who I believe was
Keith
Keith
Costigan
Costigan,
and Moa, they were the commentary duo that day.
yeah, he suddenly says off camera that Edwards was upset and he was shaking his head and they were arguing, and he says that he actually pushed Vanney a little bit at some point. Now I'm trying to think scenario, and it's I don't want to be harsh because I mean Bruce Arena was the king of man management, but I say to myself, would Bruce tolerate one of his players shoving him on the field? Would he? No, he wouldn't. And we have this situation where Costa gets the stupidest red I can possibly think of. I'm still angry about it. And then Vanney again, I got the quote right here. He says, "Don't." He says, "They apologized. They apologized. We don't even know if they apologized separately." And what good is a Douglas Costa apology? I mean, is he gonna lock himself in his house for 2 weeks and just pump iron and just focus on the team? Is he gonna delete his social media account, do something that inconveniences him? Is he going to buy all the players on the team watches and invite them over for a barbecue and apologize? Zlatan did that in his day. So I mean, when when kind of puts it that way, I get very frustrated because the only thing I want to hear about Douglas Costa is that they're sticking that guy in timeout for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vanny said, like this is going to be a situation where he would talk to the whole team and he would talk to players individually. I kind of asked him about that, if you talked to Douglas Costa yet since that incident, because again, like I said, this isn't like, something that was, leading to happening, right? It's not like these two players were kind of getting into it for a lot of the game. Like, this just all Greg kind of just said, look, we're gonna kind of handle this internally. It's gonna stay in our locker room. He said, let me try to find the quote here. I had a collective talk with the group, and individual discussions will follow. But right now, everybody's regrouping a little bit. And like I said, it was a great locker room discussion that stays in the locker room, and I expect a response. I mean, you have LAFC coming up next. If you're gonna make a response, it's got to be a big one because that team has the best player in the league right now, in my opinion, on pure form. And again, with the supporters boycott, it's gonna be a completely different environment than previous El Trafficos. But before we talk about that, maybe a little bit, I kind of want to go back to what you mentioned about not playing the 3-5-2 because. Again, Vanny's been so hell bent on having this possession based system, having that 4-3-3 shape, that I think at some point as a team, and I think every coach does this to some degrees, where they have a secondary tactical system, where if things aren't going the way, or if they need to switch it up based on the opponent, they have a separate tactical system. And I think Greg Vanney, we've seen it throughout a little bit of last year, and now this year, the 3-5-2 is that backup tactical system. In my opinion, the Galaxy have a way better personnel to play that 3-5-2 than they do a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, whatever kind of variation of that may be. Because one, the wingers aren't that good on this Galaxy team. For 4-3-3, 4-3-2-1 to work, you need wingers who are excellent in getting the ball in wide positions that can create out wide as well and also be able to stretch out the back line. Galaxy don't have any of that. What they do have are fullbacks that are able to get high up the field, that are good enough offensively to provide some width and be able to kind of beat your guy one on one. I think Raheem Edwards, tries to take on players too much, but I think Caligari has that in him, where he's able to just get past the defender and whip it across. His crosses do need to be better in my opinion, but they have players that can fit that system. If Greg Vanney wants to have that midfield control, which is something that he always constantly talks about, the 3-5-2 still allows you to have those three midfielders in the middle of the park. And again, everybody knows this Galaxy team is going to be dependent on that number nine. And if you are able to kind of, whether that's Chicharito or Dayon, if you're able to take them out of the game, allow them to not have any touches in the box, this Galaxy team's not going to have any success scoring goals. You had a Preston Judd and Chicharito or Joveljic, and you're going to have somebody who can kind of beat down and work on that back line of the other team. Somebody who's able to fight for ball, somebody who's able to kind of put in that energy and work rate to kind of wear these defenders down. Like this Galaxy team can play like this. I think they need to have a full-on transition, in my opinion, from this 4-3-3 because Tyler Boyd hasn't been consistent enough for me to say, okay, he's a player that you can depend on for the rest of the year. Memo Rodriguez, again, not playing his natural position, but he's not a guy you can count on. Efrain Alvarez, haven't seen him appear in 2 straight games. I mean, Douglas Costa is gone for likely 2 games. So I mean, this is the time to implement that system. Do you want to go with it in El Trafico? I don't know. Vanny talked about how he needs his team in this 3-5-2 to be able to kind of understand what to do in certain situations. Work on it all week. Work on it for the rest of the year. I think that this 3-5-2 complements what the Galaxy personnel has at the moment, and where their shortcomings are at. Because, like I said earlier, these wingers are not great. They're not somebody who, you're going to have a lot of faith in right now to kind of lead this team to reach a higher ceiling. If you're going to play a 3-5-2 and get, positions of the positions like with the wing backs, like the strikers, keep that midfield that's been so good intact, and have a lot more and have a back three. I think that complements what Vanney wants to do a lot more. And in Toronto, he was able to do it. I don't know why he hasn't been able to kind of implement that and go with 3-5-2 for a good amount of games, because I think playing with two strikers up front and keeping that midfield intact while also having your wide players be strengths of your team, those wingbacks, instead of the actual wingers on the roster, it's just a more complementary system for everybody. And I think if you're able to kind of work on that for a lot longer, it's going to, garner results eventually.
Got Alex, are the Galaxy in crisis mode? Because I mean, they're winless on the season, only team in the league. Only Sporting Kansas City has less goals than them. Remember, winning was antidote to this boycott. The idea that if the Galaxy perform well, then it kind of makes the idea that they're not doing their jobs sort of redundant. That hasn't happened. In fact, it's the exact opposite. If winning is the key to quelling this boycott, the boycott's not going to end anytime soon, right? And LAFC coming into town. I've been to many El Traficos. I was at the first El Trafico. I'm going to just be honest. LAFC fans, they kind of ran over the building in that game too. I mean, I remember vividly. There was so much demand for that first game that we got stuck on the roof, and so the first half, it was like 40th minute or something, and it was embarrassing. You just had that one of their chants, and it was just kind of going and going, and all I could hear was LAFC chants, and it was bad. So let's just be honest right off the bat. It's not as if like at Dignity it's like this great Galaxy home advantage. In fact, it was kind of like 50-50, which I like. Uh, and by 50-50, I mean like the supporters, not like the stadium, but the supporters. Uh, Without them, LAFC are going to take over that building, and embarrassing, and there's going to be a lot of people who don't want to be there, and you might even have a lot of fans leaving early if things get a little too out of control, and they will, because I mean, uh, the Galaxy got lucky. LAFC could have taken over LA in that very first El Tráfico, and then literally, quite literally, a soccer god came in and saved the day for them. They're not going to have that again, and I just don't know, Alex. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the LAFC still are yet to win at Dignity Health Sports Park, and this is like the right opportunity to kind of get that first win away from BMO. Is it BMO Stadium, right? That's what
Yeah,
it's called
that's
now.
the
BMO
bank.
Stadium.
They
Okay, I
went from
need to
the
get
bank
used.
to the bonk. So,
Oh, the bonk. Yeah, that sounds better.
mhm.
We.
Good.
But yeah, this is the opportunity where you want to, if you're LAFC, like you're gonna pounce on this, and the fact that this team isn't playing well, they're kind of dealing with Cáceres and Costa veterans out of the game day roster completely. They won't be involved in this game. You have a boycott that's coming, and it's really affecting the Galaxy on the field. I think Taylor Twellman on MLS 360 kind of called the stadium like a wine and cheese kind of atmosphere, right? Like that's Taylor makes some. I like Taylor because he's bold, and I kind of like it when you have media personalities who are like that. And I think he hit the nail on the coffin right there. Like this atmosphere at Dignity Health Sports Park, through the first preseason games and now the first home game that we were at the last couple of weeks. It's just not been there. And if you're having a game that constitutes so much emotion for both the fans and the players, like I don't really know what to expect. I mean, I've been to a couple of El Traficos, and they're great. Like the atmosphere is always amazing. This one, I don't know what to expect, Mike. Like I'm totally surprised. I'm just interested to see kind of what goes on, not just on the field, but like off the field. I mean, are you really gonna feel like it's an LAFC home game? I mean, will the supporters show up? I mean, Mike, I'm really looking forward to this game for like off the pitch reasons. And for most games, I don't really feel like that. But for this game in particular, I'm like, I want to see what happens while they're playing. What's going on?
And that's the vibe with Galaxy fans too. They're more interested in the spectacle at this point. Almost how bad can it get before it gets better? And there's Galaxy fans openly selling their tickets online, openly saying they're not going to be there. I mean, it is sad. I can't believe that the Galaxy would fall this far. A third plug and final one of the evening, but I wrote at the beginning of this boycott about how AEG they have a corporate mindset and how that's gonna make it very difficult for them to sort of come up with a creative solution. The closest they've been able to get to convince the fans that things are on the up and up is to hire Will Kuntz, who, to his credit, is one of the top executives in the league, and is someone I personally am generally very excited. Kevin Baxter had a really good point in his article today. He didn't replace anybody. Will Kuntz stepped into the mix. No one stepped out. So whatever's bad is still there. And, you know, we opined about it. Was it going to be enough for them to hire Kuntz? Well, maybe if they had a few wins or any sort of, someone else, anything that would give this fan base some hope, perhaps. But, and we've been neutral about this. The fans are right. I don't understand what's going on, and some fans. It's not even enough to go after Dan Beckerman, but to go after start going after Uncle Phil Anschutz, the owner of the club, and I'm speechless. But for the first time tonight, and what do you know? It's 7:00, so I guess it's our time to take off. My name is Mike Gray. I'm from the Striker. This is Alex Ruiz from the Striker. Covers LAFC. No, I cover LAFC and the Galaxy covers Galaxy. Check us out, and next week we're going to have a lot of El Trafico content.